Hi friends, this video will be one of many on how to make your own natural dye with dye materials that you can actually find and dig yourself or that are readily available to be ordered off the internet. The quills on the right are dyed with bloodroot that I dug off my farm, and the quills on the left are dyed with madder root. You can see they leave a beautiful bright color, not something you would think you could do from a natural dye. So stay tuned and we'll show you how to make a bloodroot dye. Okay, I guess we're on. As you can see, I went to a nice batch that's got some really nice large leaves. So hopefully this will have some really large roots. So there's an area here that's probably going to be mowed anyway when Frank mows around the lake. So I'm going to go ahead and dig a plan here, and we'll let you see what the roots look like. I'm using just a trapping tool here to dig with. Anything will work, any kind of a shovel. So we'll go ahead and dig this plant and see what we got here. Just make sure you get deep enough to actually expose the roots. Reach down in below it to pull it up. And as you can see here, these are two large leaves. And here's what the root looks like. I did actually cut the root, so I'm going to go back in and I'm going to make sure that I get it all. And you can see how the it's red on the end, which indicates that it is bloodroot. And Peacat says hi. Okay, I'm going to dig one or two more plants from this batch, and then I think I'll just leave the majority of this grouping of bloodroot so I don't deplete this whole area. And I'll just go out throughout the bank and just pick out one plant here and there. So let's go ahead and dig this one further down on the hill. Good place for night crawlers too. Oops, there's another one. If you want to go fishing. Okay. Let's see what we get into here. Like I said, you always want to check with your local areas to make sure that it is legal to dig bloodroot, and of course it would not be legal in any public areas. You're not allowed to dig plants and remove them, but on private land it is still protected in some areas. So let's go ahead and check these out. Oh, this is a really, really big root. And then I'm trying to knock off most of the dirt. You can see there's a large root bulb there. So we'll try to knock off most of the dirt, and then when I go home I'll wash them clean. And again, you can see the real very dark red dye right there. And also, if you pinch the stem and squeeze it, you'll see a very orange, you can see that, an orange dye coming out of the stems. So we'll go ahead and save that too. Okay, I think I've dug about 40 plants. It might take close to 100 for a good dye, but I've saved my old dye, so I'm thinking I'm going to add the old dye to these roots, and hopefully that'll be enough. I've still left plenty in the patch on the hillside to rejuvenate itself. So we're going to go over here to the water barrels and we're going to wash them off as best I can. before we take them up to the house and grind them up to make the actual dye. Okay, now you can see that I'm actually putting rainwater on the roots to try to wash off all the excess dirt. I like to use a non-chlorinated water when I'm trying to use natural dyes. I just think it does a lot better job. You're not going to be bleaching any of your dye. As you can see, I'm...
How can you tell?
There's a timer running. Right there. Okay, as you can see, I'm washing all the dirt off the roots with rainwater. You want to have them real clean so you don't get mud into your dye. In fact, probably when I go home, I'll actually take a little brush, vegetable brush, and wash them again. But this is going to do a pretty good job. So you can see, like, this is full of mud, but when we're done, it'll look like this. Okay, push the dot again. Okay, after you have dug your bloodroot and washed it very well, like I was telling before, I actually take a vegetable brush and I will scrub the roots to get all the mud off of them. And then I like to use rainwater, creek water, something that of course hasn't been chlorinated. So I've got some rainwater. I've got an old blender that I saved just for my natural dye making. And I'm going to start putting the roots, and I include the stems. I'm sure it's not necessary, but sometimes I think you might get a little color out of that. And I'll go ahead and put them in the blender and grind them up before we actually start making our dye. Okay, the next step, after you've ground up all the bloodroot, you can see that it's already an orange color right away. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pour it through anything that you have, you know, to strain it, a good strainer, and into another. I like to use these galvanized kettles, which, or I suppose they're granite kettles, which I've gotten at Goodwill, and I keep back just specifically for my natural dyes. I wouldn't, you know, ever use anything that you're going to actually eat in. So I'm going to go ahead and strain this into this kettle, and then probably I'll go ahead and put the strained material into some like a piece of nylon, something like that, to go ahead and put down in the natural dye solution so I can actually cook it also. Okay, this is what it looks like after you've strained it, all your actual solid dye material in the strainer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I like to use like pantyhose, so I'm going to go ahead and use a piece of an old pantyhose, and I'll take and you know, put rubber gloves on so you don't get your hands all dye, and I'll put the leftover dye material in the pantyhose, and then you can actually put it down in the solution to cook. As you can see, I've added the chopped up pieces in the nylon hose along with the mixture from the blender, the liquid part, and I'm going to go ahead and put that on medium high heat, and I'm going to go ahead and let that do maybe just below a boil at for about an hour before I add any quills. And the quills are going to be soaking in water with vinegar. It will help morten the actual dye color. Of course, this can also be used for any kind of material, and I would imagine you would have much deeper, maybe even orange or color, where the quills will be yellow to dark yellow. I might get a little bit of an orange, but we'll see. I think I'm going to go ahead and add the saved material from a couple years past, just to try to make the solution a little stronger. Okay, I've simmered the bloodroot for about an hour, and you can see that the color is nice and orange. You can actually see it on my stove top, how nice and orange it is. And I've soaked the quills in rainwater and probably about 1/4 of a cup of white vinegar. So now I'll add the quills over to the dye mixture and we'll see what happens. Okay, the quills have been simmering just a little under medium heat for about an hour now, and you can see they're picking up quite a bit of color. It's not quite orange, but it's kind of a dark yellow. You can see from last year. This is the color I normally get, and it looks like I'm going to get that color again this year. It's a very deep yellow. So I think I'm going to let those steep maybe another hour or so just to soak up any more color I can get. Then I'll rinse them again in some vinegar to really set the dye well, and that's that on making some nice bloodroot dye for quills or any kind of material. Like I said, linen, cotton, anything. You would get a really nice deep yellow to an orange to a dark orange, depending on the type of material you use to actually dye with.